3, 2, 1. I'm fully geared up. Let's go. Whoa!
That was my colleague Jiang Tao kicking off his run at the Miyun Marathon. Over the past decade, the long-distance foot race experienced exponential growth in China, yet still cannot keep up with the even faster-growing number of runners. This week on Deep Dive, CGTN Radio reporter Jiang Tao explores the rising popularity and economic impact of marathons in China, the future prospects of this burgeoning sport, and whether it can sustain its rapid growth. This episode is brought to you on Saturday, June the 15th. So, Jiang Tao, was this the first marathon you've attended?
The Miyun Eco Marathon, actually that marathon wasn't the first I participated in. The first one was probably 10 years ago in 2015 in Nanchang City, which was actually a halfway marathon. And back then I was still a student. I was, having my summer vacation.
Okay.
And I still can vividly remember the scene that I was late for the marathon and I carried my bag the whole way till the finish line, and I finished it at 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Is that a pretty good result for the first time?
A relatively good result for beginner, but for the professionals, the time is not a very good result.
And how is your running experience this time in the Miyun Marathon?
This time, I think the weather was good. It was kind of chilly in the morning, but got warmer later on. The vibe there is quite infectious because people there, especially those local residents, were cheering up for us while we were running along the route. And I think most runners who participate in such event, just like me, maybe they're not intend to compete, not regard it as a competition, but just
to enjoy.
Be there to enjoy the event, the vibe.
These days, it's not that easy to sign up for a marathon. Did you consider yourself lucky to be picked into this marathon event?
You bet. Taking the Miyun Eco Marathon, for instance, this event has attracted around 12,000 people, but the overall, people who have signed up for the game reached around 42,000. So if I do the math, I got only 20% of possibilities to be enrolled in such event. So actually, I want to, introduce you a very good app. It's specially designed for marathon runners. It's called Mala Mala. And people can literally browse the latest events on the app.
It has all the marathon events throughout China.
Yeah, all kinds of events around China.
Oh, that's pretty handy.
Yeah, take the Miyun Marathon, for instance, because we are talking about revolving around this event. The registration can be open as early as 3 months ahead of the event.
Wow.
Yeah, and the fee for the halfway marathon probably cost around 140 yuan, which is roughly $20, right? And the fees for the full-length marathon goes up a little bit, around 180 yuan. Yeah, but still sounds plausible for the regular runners.
Okay, so you have to pay and to win a lottery system to attend these marathon events. These people sound pretty motivated to be there. And normally, what would be the ratio of winning the lottery system? Because for this time, there were over 40,000 people, and among which the marathon events pick a bit over 10,000 who can run in the marathon. And what would be the normal ratio to win this system?
Actually, the ratio vary from event to event. And for those high-level marathons, especially those held in first-tier cities, the ratio could be very low. Take 2024 Chongqing Marathon, for instance. The ratio reached a record low of 4%. Very astonishing, right?
So 4 out of 100 people who sign up for the event, that's really low.
Yeah, that's pretty low. But if we look abroad, the ratio is still very low. If we look at the marathons held in Tokyo and Chicago, all below 10%.
Okay.
You might have higher chances, getting enrolled in marathons in small and medium-sized cities. I looked up on the internet and I found out a small city called Huangshi in China's Hubei province. Last year, the small city held a marathon with a scale of 15,000, and over 20,000 people have signed up for the game. So you're not 100% guaranteed for any marathon games in China nowadays. Yeah, this somehow explains why more and more cities intend to host marathon games.
It's definitely becoming more and more popular these days. Is it because that these marathon events can help the whole cities make money?
Definitely, because marathons means money and means big bucks for the local economy. What I mean, local economies means those small and medium-sized cities.
Tell us about these economics behind these events.
Actually, a marathon can pull in tens of thousands of people to spend money in the local region. And there was a survey, a very prestigious survey, suggests that over 70% of runners choose to indulge in the local snacks, and over 60% of runners choose to explore the nearby areas. While they are exploring the city, they're definitely going to spend money in the local areas.
Right.
I want to talk about a little bit more about the Huangshi case. The marathon held by the small city helped generate around 150 million yuan in the local GDP, which is roughly around 20 million US dollars. And I interviewed an expert, and he told me that a marathon game can generate 13 times more revenue for related industries than its costs.
Okay, so 13 times of return on investment. No wonder these marathon events are becoming welcomed in more and more cities in China. Coming back to yourself, what would be your motivation to take part in these events?
Actually, my motivation has changed from the very beginning, because initially I just want to cross an item on my bucket list. I need to do it somehow.
Once in this lifetime.
Yeah, kind of have a strong urge to finish it. But later on, after participating in several marathons, I started to really enjoy the marathons. Focused more on the surroundings and the scenery along the route, and even people who were cheering up for us. And each time when I ran a while in the marathon, my conscious would shift more just purely on my body movements. And it can be seen as a self-reflection process.
Wow.
That can help build up my confidence that I'm strong enough as long as I'm committed to myself to do something.
Wow, that's quite philosophical. It's like your soul has left your body too, and emerged in the sceneries around you. Will that apply to other people that are participating in marathon events? Because like you said earlier, actually most of the people who sign up for marathons, they are actually not there to compete. And what would be the most common goals for people to go to such an event?
Yeah, I think it applies to most of the runners. And I think people's goals for running a marathon can be both specific and ambiguous at the same time. And for some rigid people, who would prepare an elaborated running schedule before running an event.
The competitive ones.
Yeah, they intend to have very good results in the game. But while others, like me, probably would just want to be part of the game, I think some people also see it as a cathartic method to release their negative feelings, which they accumulated, through daily lives. And I think as people get richer, and they also, developed a strong awareness on how they should treat their body. And I think running a marathon should be an attitude how seriously you are towards your body management.
Okay, so stress releasing, like we would normally do in other daily sports activities. But marathons actually have been in China for decades, but only it became popular in the recent years that we started to see and read about how people need to win in this lottery system in order to be there. So it's not even guaranteed you can get a spot in these marathon events. And why it has become such a trend only in the recent years?
Mm-hmm. Actually, I think there are two fundamental reasons. The first one is from macro perspective, that China has relaxed its standards for organizing marathons in 2014. That is a very crucial juncture. And the number of marathons skyrocketed from 51 in that year to over 1,800 in 2019. So the policy has really become a very good momentum for China's marathon events development. And the second one, I think, hinges on economics. There is a terminology called the marathon cycle, which refers to when a country's per capita GDP reached 5,000 US dollars, the sporting event enters to a golden stage of development. As people become more rich, they would pay more attention to their physical well-being.
The soul-searching activities. Yeah, that makes sense because there's the financial motivation for the host cities to organize these events, and the government policy also lowered the threshold for the hosting cities to organize such an event. And one thing that we should be aware of is that when these events grow so fast, there will inevitably come with some problems, issues. There have been complaints about noise, the traffic control, and there have also been complaints about the garbage disposal after a marathon event concludes. Are there more awareness from the organizers to be more responsible in handling these complaints?
I don't know whether they are more aware of this problem or not, but I think they should shoulder most of the responsibilities because they are the major stakeholder of hosting such events. In advance, I think they should have a good enough plan to deliver a sound marathon event for all the runners. For the governments, I think they also need to coordinate with the organizers together in order to handling the traffic jam and send some traffic notifications for the local residents in case causing some unnecessary inconveniences. And for individuals, they should also bear in mind, by individual, I mean those runners who participate in the game, they should bear in mind they shouldn't litter garbage along the route, and they should just collect this garbage and litter them to designated areas. And it is a comprehensive event, and it takes multiple parties to shoulder the responsibilities.
Right. So major events like this will definitely have more demands on the planning skills of the organizers. Looking at the long-term development of marathons in China, how much do you think we need to go? And what's missing for us to build some of the marathons in China into a global and international event?
Without doubt, there is still a gap between China's marathon and some well-known marathons around the world, for instance, in Tokyo and Chicago. Take Tokyo Marathon, for instance. There was all kinds of groups of volunteers in charge of different kinds of tasks. They would dress up in different colors. For instance, a group of volunteers would dress up in yellow and in charge of the medical services. And people who dressed up in green maybe would in charge of clean up the mess after the game. And the major problem still lies on the management capabilities of the organizers, and which has also been highlighted by the organizer of Miyun Eco Marathon, which I interviewed earlier. He told me that as an organizer, there are so many little tiny things that you would neglect while hosting the event. And runners can feel more at ease and more comfortable at higher level marathon events due to, better marathon services. I think in China, there's still many problems with regard to some organizational issues occurring in small and medium-sized cities because they don't have much experiences in hosting such grand event. But I still hold a very positive point of view. I think, after all, marathon is not a sprint.
And when do you see yourself going to the next marathon?
Probably next month.
Good luck with that. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
A market report, co-released by the Chinese Athletics Association, reveals that last year saw a decline in the number of marathons and half marathons compared to 2019. However, the first half of 2024 suggests that marathons might experience another strong surge in popularity this year. While the report indicates that profit margins are narrowing for organizers, manufacturers of sports gear remain actively involved, sponsoring races and introducing new models of running equipment. And that brings us to the end of this episode of Deep Dive. If you enjoyed what you just heard, don't forget to follow us on your podcast platform. Just search for Deep Dive. You can also leave comments to let us know what you want to learn about China and beyond. This episode is brought to you by me, Li Yunqi, and my colleagues Zhang Zhang and Qi Zhi. Special thanks to CGTN Radio reporter Jiang Tao. I'll see you in the next one.